first thing I want to say is that as a TCNJ student, you can get your own free version of AutoCAD on your computer at home. You just have to go to AutoCAD's website. The other thing I want to say is that be sure that you don't download the full AutoCAD suite because it's like an 8 gig download. All you need is AutoCAD itself. Here I've opened up and started AutoCAD, and I'm going to start just a brand new drawing, and we're going to draw straight from the go. To start drawing, we're going to draw a line. So I'm going to go up and I'm going to grab the line tool that's labeled line, and this lets me draw lines all over the screen. To start the line, you just click anywhere, and then the line will form. If you go down at the bottom, you'll see the right angle there. That will give you orthographic mode, which will allow you to draw straight lines in the X and the Y direction, or in here, the east and the north. Once you start drawing, you can actually just type in the number and the length of the line, and it will draw a line that's that long. So we're drawing the tissue box, which is 9 inches wide and 5 inches high. So I've drawn lines that are 9 inches, 5 inches, 9 inches, and 5 inches, and I've made myself a wonderful rectangle. Now I'm going to do the same thing that I did before when I was doing the hand drawing and do construction lines. And basically, I'm going to give myself a spot on the rectangle to start and end the curve of the opening at the top. And to draw the curve at the top, I'm going to do the arc tool, which I click at the beginning and the end of the arc, and then I can move the cursor around to get an arc that looks the way I want it to look. That looks pretty good, so I'm going to go with that. Although it is a little long, so in order to get it to fit the constraints of the rectangle, I'm going to cut away my construction lines. And then I'm going to go use the trimming tool right here and use the edge of the box to trim away the excess arc and delete the construction line under there. Now that I have that curve, what's nice about the tissue box is that it's symmetric around its center, so I'm going to use the mirror tool, which is going to allow me to mirror it through the center. And you'll see here that that yellow triangle just popped up. That is called a snap. You can adjust AutoCAD to snap to the different things you want. If you go down to the bottom, it gives you all the snaps, and you'll see that I have endpoint, midpoint, center, isometric, tangent, nearest. All these things AutoCAD will snap to when I'm beginning and ending lines. So what I'm going to do is select the thing I want to mirror, use my center snap at the top, the center snap at the bottom. That gives me a line that it will mirror across, and it lets me mirror my arc from one side of the box to the other. I might be able to adjust it a little, but not much, and I don't like the way it looks. So I'm just going to stop fooling and leave it as is. That's the top. Let's go to the bottom. I actually did a little extra work when doing the top because I drew lines. Since it's a rectangle, there is a rectangle tool in AutoCAD that lets you just directly draw a rectangle. It looks like a rectangle. So if you go and you click it, you can draw a rectangle or a polygon, so like a triangle, but you click a starting point, and it says specify another point, or you can type D. You can type D while in the rectangle tool. If you type D outside the rectangle tool, it gives you dimensions. But in the rectangle tool, it'll let you put the dimensions of your rectangle in. So 9 and 5, and you'll get a rectangle that's 9 inches by 5 inches. After you do it, you need to be sure to click in the space, or you will lose your rectangle and have to do it again like we do here. So there we go, I've clicked, I finished my rectangle, and now I have a top and a bottom and a line that I'm just going to delete out of here because I don't want it anymore. After the top and the bottom, I'm going to start on the front, and to do the front, I'm going to use the rectangle tool again. And the front, instead of being 5 inches, is 3.5 inches, so I just did 9 and 3.5 inches. And I'm going to go back again with some more construction lines and give myself a place to cut in the opening. At the front, the cut starts 2.5 inches over, and we know it ends in the middle 1 inch up. So then I'm just going to use the arc tool again to draw a nice arc that goes from one construction line to the other. And then I'm going to go back and do the trim tool to trim it back to where I want it to end. And then I'm going to use the mirror tool to mirror it over to the other side. And delete out my construction lines, and then I have the front. What's great is that the back of the box is a rectangle, so I'm going to use the copy tool and copy out the rectangle, and I'll have the back instantly done for me. There we go. And now I'm going to create another rectangle. This rectangle will represent both the side profile of the box and the section cut. And that small rectangle will just be 3.5 by 5 inches. And then I'm going to use the move tool to click on the box and move it down and around, or anywhere I basically want it to be. That's what the move tool does. So I'm going to work on the section cut next to the top and the front. So I'm going to copy this box down so that I can have a side view that's going to be next to the bottom and the back. So move it down. I'm going to draw some construction lines to maybe help me out as I draw my section cut, putting ortho mode back on. And then I'm going to go and I'm going to copy the box back up. I'm going to use the top line and align it with the top line there, so my section cut is aligned with the front of my box. Now, the thing that we're going to do here, we're going to extend that second construction line out to the box by, if you click down on the trim tool, there's an extend tool, where in the extend tool you pick a destination you want a line to end, and it will jump the line out to that point. Now, what we did by hand, where we had a section cut, was highlight what we had cut. In AutoCAD, generally what you do is hatch what you've cut. So what I'm going to do here basically is go through and offset a box that will allow me to cut it apart and create a hatch area. For AutoCAD to hatch is a fill. It could be a solid fill, it could be stripes, it could kind of be anything you want. Some of the hatches have meanings. There's a concrete hatch, there's wood hatch. What the hatch tells you, just like when we highlighted the hand drawing, was that area that we cut. So I'm going to go through here, offset by typing O, brings up the offset command. So now you've seen I've offset one box inside the other, and I offset it 0.1 inches or something like that. Now I'm going to draw lines showing where the box needs to be cut off for the opening. And those lines can be drawn better when you use extend rather than using trim. line. So I've set a cut part at the bottom, but actually, now that I've cut this out, I realize that we need to cut out the complete top of the box in order for it to be representative of what the thing is. So we're going to go in here and draw a line and cut the top of the box completely off using the trim tool. And before, when I was using the trim tool, I needed to click on something that I wanted to trim to, and then click the line and it would trim back. If you just activate the trim tool and right click, it will automatically select cutoff points, and that's what you saw me just do previously. So here we go. I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to go back to the trim tool. I'm going to left click, then right click, and then click over the end and cut off that little piece. Now I'm going to type BH. BH stands for boundary hatch. Or there's also a hatch icon that you can click on, bringing up the hatch tool. Then once you click inside an area, you'll see it brought up all those lines. Those lines are called a hatch. There's lots of different things you can select from. It's just common to use the lines because it doesn't make a very heavy drawing when you output it. So there you go. You have the top, the front, a section cut, the bottom, the back, and the side. The thing we need to do now is give everything some dimensions. Dimensioning is significantly easier in here. Here you go to the annotate and it gives you dimensions. I find the automatic dimension, which is the dimension with the sunburst in it, to be very hard to use. So I just am using the linear dimension tool here because we have rectangles, everything will be in a straight line. And I basically just go through and click on the beginning and the end, and it gives it a dimension. Now you can't see it, but we can go into the properties tool and go ahead and up the size of everything. So 0.5, it could still be bigger, 0.75, and that increased my arrow size to 0.75, which I can see now. And if I go down to text, I can up the text to a size of 0.75 too, so we can read it. Now, you'll see that it's running with 4 significant digits, which is crazy for what the measurements have done in the tissue box. So if I go down to primary units of precision, I can knock that back to 2 decimal places, which would give you like a quarter of inch being 0.25. Now, we changed one dimension. We didn't change all the dimensions. We can also give it a suffix or a prefix, so I'll type inches in there because it was inches. But you'll notice we only changed that one dimension. Now, you can change these things to work globally, but generally, for what we're doing, we're not working on drawings that big. I like to use the match properties and basically just go around and paste the sizings, everything, to all the different places that we did. So I'm going to go through here and rapidly click and add dimensions to everything, and then match properties so that we have all the dimensions added to our drawing. And when you're using this linear dimension, things don't actually have to be linear. It will take the linear distance between them. Here I am using the special dimension tool. You'll see that I can kind of click on the side and it gives the dimensions, but I have trouble getting that to work all the time. So now I'm just going to go back and I'm going to match property all my dimensions so that they look nice. You'll see that when I make them bigger, some of them kind of jump out and don't look super nice. And we'll go back and make them look nice. You can do it pretty easily by, if you click on the dimension and go over the button, give thing in the label, you can move it without the leader, and basically you just move the thing to where they look nice. So move text only, move it to where it looks nice. Highlight, hover over the middle, move text only, put it where it looks nice. Put it where it looks nice. So now we've got our normal views, our section cut, we've dimensioned them up. The only thing we kind of need to draw now too, as well, is our isometric drawing. And this is actually not super hard in AutoCAD because AutoCAD has an isometric drawing view. If you go down on the bottom, I'm going to scroll over to give myself some more room. It's down on the bottom right, and it looks like the crosshairs turn sideways. And when you click on it, the crosshairs turn sideways in an isometric view, and you'll see that the grid that's in the background has shifted to a 45-degree angle. Now you saw me swipe through the cursor directions there. That is done by hitting F5, and it allows you to change which plane you're theoretically drawing in. Otherwise, drawing works exactly the same. You just need to make sure that you're in the plane you want to be in and in orthographic mode, and basically you'll just click around in that skewed angle. Now, this is not actually skewed at all. This is just a trick AutoCAD is playing to make it easier for you to draw. So I'm basically just drawing lines and rectangles like I did before, normal line tool, but since I changed the grid and everything to snap isometrically, I'm just drawing in an isometric view. And all I had to do is click the isometric view on and know that F5 changes the direction my cursor would go. I used a copy there to copy that over. And there I basically have my box view. Because the back lines are hidden, I have an isometric view there. I'm going to do some construction lines like I normally would, so I can make the cutout. There I had to flip the cursor around so that I could get it to be where I wanted it to be. That's one of the pains about doing isometric drawings. But obviously this is way faster than me doing it by hand. And if you put stuff like this in reports and things, it looks pretty impressive. The one thing that becomes very difficult here, though, is mirroring. So we're just going to go ahead and draw all the construction lines and draw everything in so it looks nice. And the arc tool can be finicky, so I'm going to fiddle around with it till I get it to be where I want it to be. That looks pretty nice there. And I'm going to trim it back like I always do. And just for sport, let's see what things look like when we use the mirror tool. And you'll see that just did a weird offset there. It doesn't line up, so we're just going to go in and draw the thing by hand. Or we're going to drag it there, which is the same as drawing it, but maybe a little easier. I didn't have to click on as many icons. And that gives us the top, and we'll do the construction lines for the bottom, but we only really need the middle one. Hit F5, switch my axis around so I can go up. I can draw a 1-inch line up, and now I can use the arc tool to arc in. Yeah, cut out. Trim the arc down. And this can become a little nicer if you turn the snaps off, but I'm just going to fight it into place till I get something that I like the way it looks. And I'm going to finish this off by removing the construction line and using the trim tool to cut out of the opening of the box. And there you go. You have a nice isometric view. And then when you're done doing your isometric drawing, you go down and you click off the isometric view and the isometric grid goes away. And you'll learn that it really wasn't 3D. It was still 2D. You were just tricking your eye. Whoop. There you go. Now, the one thing we need to talk about is when you're drawing on a piece of paper, you're drawing on a piece of paper. That exists in the world. AutoCAD is a file. We need to be able to bring it into the real world by printing. So I'm going to show you how to print. To print, you move out of the model space into the layout space. You print in AutoCAD from layout space. Here I'm modifying the layout and assigning a printer. Now generally, you assign the printer where you're sitting, or you create a PDF, which is basically you can take anywhere and print out. It's one of the most versatile drawing formats you can use. So I've made my Adobe PDF Creator my printer for this page. I'm dragging the viewport to be bigger, and when you click inside of the rectangle representing the viewport, you'll see that the line gets thick and black, and as you scroll around in here, you're adjusting the model space in the viewport. And I come outside, when I'm in there I can turn the grid off, and then when I double click outside, the line thickness goes away. I can hit print. I'm printing to Adobe PDF. I'll save it to my desktop. I'll hit save, and then what this did is create a nice PDF, which I can then zoom out on and adjust into view so that we can see everything. Now I could take this PDF to any printer and it'll basically print out the way I want it to look. And that is my short, much less than comprehensive overview of AutoCAD. It's hopefully enough to get you started.